thinking now let's move to the fourth skill that we need to upskill, especially in this pandemic when we are not meeting people the way we used to. I remember in a lot of our leadership workshops, we used to spend so much time in getting people's handshakes right. And now handshake is a taboo, right? We're not in touch physically in any form at all. We are supposed to maintain social distancing. Handshakes is like the last thing on our mind. So there are a lot of things about communication which are different. When we talk about communication, it's often split into the words that we use, the voice tone that we have, and the body language with which we talk. Right? So if it's a pie, it's broken into these 3 slices. Each one carries its own weightage. Now, this is an open secret. A lot of us already know what is the percentage, but I'm still curious to know if people in the room can share. What do you think is the percentage of words, voice tone, and body language that adds up to effective communication, the way it was understood before the pandemic, by the way, because that pie looks very different today. But if we were to just understand communication in a generic manner, what do you think is a percentage of the words, the importance of words that we use, the importance of the voice tonality with which we communicate, and the importance of our body language that we use or demonstrate when we communicate with people? It's actually 7% of what we say, the words, 38% of our voice tonality, and the balance 55% is our body language. But if we understand the bifurcation of what makes communication really effective, the least amount of contribution is through the words that we use. A lot of it is dependent upon the tonality of our voice and our overall body language. But when we talk about virtual communication, which has now become a reality, which is the way we are communicating today, a lot of body language is not seen as much as it was earlier. Right? There is still body language at play for as long as you put your videos on, for as long as you appear on the screen, but voice tonality still exists and the words that we use are still heard. So the percentages have changed a bit. Words has increased and the tonality of your voice has increased, and body language to some extent has come down, which means the how of communication is also different. For us to understand how to communicate in the virtual space, we need to also take our presence more seriously. The way we show up, how we physically show up. Do we dress for success? Are we professional? Do we appear to be professional on all our calls or not? And that's, in fact, a lot more important now than it ever was, because we don't have the opportunity to be there in person. So are we taking this behind the screen presence lightly, or are we still showing up professionally? A lot is taken away if you are not showing up in a professional manner in virtual communication in terms of the effectiveness of your communication. So we've got to make sure that we dress not to impress, but to succeed. We dress to show ourselves as professional and as professional as we think we are. So it's very, very important, even in the virtual space, to know how you're dressing up and how you're showing up for every professional conversation that you plan to have. The second thing that is important in terms of effectiveness in the virtual space is to be visible. Now, earlier in the physical space, even if you didn't say anything or you didn't contribute much to a discussion, the fact that you were in the room was enough and marked your presence. Right? It added to some points in terms of your contribution to the overall discussion. But today, you don't get those brownies at all. If you are in the room and you're one out of those 100 who've logged in for this call, but you are not on the video and you are not answering anything in the chat box, you have no point of view, you have no question, you have no comment, then you are pretty much a ghost in that space and you really don't exist. You need to make your presence felt to make your communication effective. Communication is a two-way process, isn't it? So when it's a two-way process, there has to be one me and then one you. And the way you show up is by participating, is by creating your presence, by putting your videos on if you can, if bandwidth is not an issue, by participating and sharing your views, your thoughts, your comments, your questions. And that's how you've got to make your presence felt. Out of those 100 who log in for a meeting, only 6, 7, or 10 people are actually able to create their presence. They are able to communicate effectively. If all those 100 would have been considered as present in a physical form, today only 10 really show up. If these are the only 10 who put their videos on and who look professional and who participate in a discussion. So anytime you bother yourself to put the camera on, anytime you want to put the laptop on and communicate with people, please make sure that you get your presence felt. Otherwise, it's an absolute waste of time. So in this virtual environment, we've got to learn how to participate, and we have to stop escaping from participation. It can just be a yes or a no sometimes. It can just be a comment. It can just be agreeing or disagreeing to something, but it has got to be something for sure. And the third thing that you need to remember in the virtual space is to stop multitasking. We think that we can have a call on and I can still answer my emails and I can also respond to WhatsApp messages on my phone and no one will know. The problem with multitasking is that human brain is not designed to multitask. And the moment you push yourself to do something as unnatural as multitasking, you go down on the quality of any task that you're performing. Any and every task that you're performing. So you're not in this meeting completely. You're not with the WhatsApp message completely. You've not sent the mail the best you could have. You're nowhere with your 100%. So you've got to stop multitasking, and trust me, it's very easy to know in virtual space if you're multitasking. If you are only physically present, but you're not connected, you're not aligned, you're not in the moment, it's really easy for the other person to figure that out. Your body language gives it away. And if you don't have the video on and your body language cannot be seen, then you're anyways a ghostly appearance, right? Your presence is not being marked anyway. So if we have to make our communication effective in the virtual space, we've got to know how to dress professionally each and every time, how to be visible and participate, and how to stop multitasking and give your 100% to one thing at a time.